We welcome you to Phillies Postgame Live, presented by our friends at Cure Auto Insurance. Ben Davis, I'm Michael Barkan. In a moment, John Kruk from the ballpark. Benny, I was going to say the New York Mets are in the Phillies' heads, and I'm thinking, no, they took the first game of the series last week, and they were close to taking game number 2 before the third game was a mess. Then I was thinking, well, they really don't have the lineup, and Brandon Marsh is hurt, etc. But the bottom of the lineup did okay. They got 9 hits, for goodness sakes, against the Mets. And then I go to Aaron Nola, who pitched so well in his last outing, facing Jacob Degrom. I don't know what the heck it is, but they are now 4-12 as they lose it tonight, 7-2. 4-12 against the Mets this season, Ben, and they are 3-5 their last 8 games, and 11 back in the Mets in the division.
I don't know if the Mets are completely in the Phillies' head, but I know Chris Bassitt is. This guy is just going out there in his 4 appearances against the Phillies. He just has shoved, and there's nothing the Phillies can do about it. They did manage to get 2 off him tonight, but he finished with 6 strong innings. That ERA down to 3.26 for Bassitt, and he's been really good pickup for the Mets. But it was a dud of a game. It was dud. It was poor defense early. It was a lot of pitches thrown by Aaron Nola throughout this ball game. He wasn't that sharp. Didn't come through with some RBI opportunities. It was just a dud of a game, and they have 3 games to salvage now in 2 games. So we'll see how they go about it. 2
of them are doubleheaders tomorrow, and we look at the wild card standings. I mentioned the division wild card standings. The Phillies are half game up on San Diego. San Diego at home against Washington. They're playing right now. But, Ben, the Phillies could fall back into a tie with the Padres, although they do have the tiebreak at the end of the season if they are tied. But I don't like where it's going because there are the Brewers right there. I mean, it's such a fine line between being in there and being out.
Yeah, I don't like where it's going either. But the bottom line is the Mets have had their number all year, and they have to change that in the next 3 games in 2 days, like I just said. They can't worry about the Brewers. They can't worry about the Padres. They just have to worry about getting a W at the 1 o'clock game tomorrow and move on from there. I know it sounds cliche, but that's the bottom line. They didn't play well tonight. They have to move on, but it's not easy to move on when the team has had your number and a certain individual in Chris Bassitt has had your number throughout the course of the season. It's a tough pill to swallow, but the Phillies are going to have to try and do so.
4 starts against the Phillies for Chris Bassitt. 4 starts. He's like Sandy Koufax, for goodness sakes, except he's not a lefty, as we look at Chris Bassitt. Hit by Bassitt. One's Gene Segura, who's just coming off the injured list from being hit in the thumb, for goodness sakes. And then Matt Vierling gets hit. And I don't sense that the Phillies, forget about reciprocating, but that the Phillies pitch that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that either one of those were intentional, but you maybe would like to stand up a few of the Mets tomorrow if you have the opportunity early on in the ball game. They do look like they're very comfortable at home plate. Not a whole lot of pitches rushed in underneath the hands, especially some of the righties. Aaron Nola, one thing I did think he did very well tonight was able to run a 2-seamer off the hip of the lefties, bring that sucker back. I mean, he had 15 swings and misses and 9 punch-outs. So he wasn't terrible. That shows you how good Aaron Nola can be. The fact that he didn't have his best stuff, but still had 9 strikeouts and 15 swings and misses, shows you that he is above average in this league.
All right, let's go back across the street to Citizens Bank Park and check in with John Kruk, called tonight's game with Tom McCarthy. John, I posed, I don't know if it's true or not, I don't know if you buy it or not, but one, that the Mets are in the Phillies' heads. Do you buy that at all?
Well, I mean, right now, the Mets are just a better team.
Yeah.
They got. Well, look, our pitching's been really good, bullpen's been really good, but the Mets' offense, it seems to me, has been far more consistent than the Phillies' offense, and to me, that's the difference in the 2 teams.
All right, Ben, I know you had a...
No, I think one good sign tonight is Kyle Schwarber had a couple really, he blistered a couple balls up the middle, which you love to see. That's a good sign. After not having a whole lot of bats over this past week, you got to like him at the top there.
Yeah, anytime you can get your leadoff hitter to get on base a couple times, you'd hope that some runs would be scored. And JT swung the bat well tonight, but other than that... look, Stott hit the ball at first. I think it was his first at bat to hit the triple, and then he got kind of screwed. I mean, that pitch was up, and they called it a strike, and it just put you in a hole. And then, you saw what he had to do. He had to swing at a pitch up out of the zone, which, anyone who's ever hit before knows that if you have to swing at that pitch, you're probably not going to have a great night.
When the Mets score 5 of their runs with 2 out, is that an indictment on anything with regard to Nola or the pitching, that they were 1 out away from closing things out and this game might have been a different story?
Yeah, I mean, you would think a pitcher like Aaron would be able to shut the door with 2 outs, but we've seen in the past, with even with 2 strikes, he's at some points in his career he's had trouble putting guys away with 2 strikes. Today, he couldn't really put the guys away with 2 outs when he had to, and it just I think you have to just. You hate to say it, but look, the Mets are a better team than the Phillies. We know that because of the records. But if the Phillies are going to eventually have to play someone like that, if they get a wild card spot, when you get 2 outs, you got to put them away.
Sports is about consistency, especially at the major league level, and I'm just trying to figure out. Jacob Degrom, this guy is unbelievable. He for the most part, he was step for step with Degrom, if not a little better. As mentioned in the pregame show, Degrom had 16 straight batters retired at one point, and Nola had 17 straight. So how do you go from that to what happened tonight? I know they got to get runs, but come on, you got to keep him from scoring too.
Yeah, you do have to keep him from scoring, but he just didn't have his good stuff tonight. I mean, his ERA is at now 3.25. It really didn't go up a whole heck of a lot. He just wasn't sharp tonight, and that's not what we're accustomed to seeing out of Aaron Nola. He just didn't have his best stuff. You're talking about Jacob Degrom. You're talking about a unicorn. The man is the filthiest guy on the planet. To throw a pitch at 102 with your fastball, then throw a 94-mile-an-hour slider, it's inhuman. But yet he's able to do it. I do believe there's a big reason why he's always on the IL, because the human body isn't made to do that. You're not physically allowed to do that. It shouldn't be allowed. Something's going to pop, snap, or break, and that's what happens with Degrom. He gets injured a lot because your body physically shouldn't do that. Well, his does from time to time. Aaron Nola doesn't throw at 102. He has to be a little bit more perfect than Jacob Degrom does, and he was able to match him last Saturday night, not able to do it this evening. And his bat stays in the zone for a long time, but it's quick through the zone, if that makes any sense. He's short to it, long through it, whatever cliche you want to use about hitting. He has the power behind it, uses his legs really well. He's a good hitter.
Short to it, long through it. Here's Rob Thomson on what happened tonight to his team.
Disappointed with how you guys came out. A lot of expectations coming into the series against the Mets.
Yeah, I thought, overall Nola stuff was pretty good. He maybe didn't execute a couple of pitches, but they got some hits where we weren't standing, and I think he'd probably want the pitch back to Alonso on the home run, but we gave him an extra out in the first inning, and a couple of plays that we probably should have made, but it's baseball.
You got Wheeler in game 1 tomorrow. They beat him on Sunday. He actually liked the way he pitched.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll carry kind of any extra motivation into that game tomorrow, given the way things are going?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him, but Will's always, and Nola too, always the type of guys after a loss, they come back and their guns are blazing, and so I expect the same thing out of him tomorrow. Has anybody heard what they're doing tomorrow? Because we haven't.
They hadn't announced the order.
Okay.
Williams and Peterson.
Williams and Peterson.
Someone.
Okay.
Have you been a little surprised at times that the power stroke for the lineup as a whole will disappear for maybe a week or 2 at a time, or is that something you just?
Yeah, I think that happens to probably every club at times. We've had. We haven't hit many home runs lately, but that changes. It changes in a heartbeat.